So have you always been a fan of purple?
Well, let's see, how long has this been? It got to the ridiculous stage 2 years ago, when, yeah, the walls happened, and I had a little purple heater. I've got, yeah, the carpet in here is purple. My chair is purple behind me. Yeah, you can see the purple decorations on the wall. Oh, I have a purple mini fridge too.
A mini
So
fridge.
yes, a purple coffee maker. I found a purple shredder. I was really excited about that. Um, I did not get the purple ceiling fan though. I decided to stick with
Oh,
white. So it's purple and white in here. So, but yeah, as much purple as I can get anywhere.
yes, I see some people starting to enter. Hello, welcome. We are just chatting a little bit while we wait for a few more people to log on. Give everyone a few moments to get here. Feel free to tell us where you are in the chat. If you guys have any questions, put them in the Q&A box down at the bottom. Hello. Like, I also really enjoy purple. I don't know if I've taken the color obsession that far, but my daughter's Nana has. She has purple hair and has had purple hair for several years. I actually had a lavender jumpsuit on yesterday. I was like, if I'd known like the purple color had been such a theme, I would have wore it today.
No problem. Yeah, the car, the seats, the steering wheel cover, that's all purple too. Yeah.
Does your husband like it?
Well, I have been nice, and I have just limited it to my office and my wardrobe. So there's no purple in our bedroom or the kitchen or the common living areas. But yeah, he knows that it's basically just give me something purple, for
Yeah.
birthdays and Christmas. It's the easiest way to go.
You're like, if you're guaranteed to have a hit, it's something purple. I mean, that keeps it pretty simple.
Exactly.
Well, guys, welcome to the chat. In case you did not realize, I'm Vicky. I'm the event coordinator here at Nowhere Bookshop, and I have been chatting with our author of the December pick, Seressia Glass, author of the Lexicon. Even the cover's purple. Did you ask for it to be purple, or did that just happen?
That's just how it happened, and I'm very thankful to my editor and the design team there for tying that in. I think they figured it out.
This is how you were in like every meeting. They were like, I bet she's really gonna like a purple cover.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Cam even has a little lovely purple shirt on. It's so pretty.
I know. It just works out
color
great.
scheme. It is really sweet.
It is such a cute cover. I really like it.
So tell us a little bit about like what gave you this idea. Where did you get the idea to write this one?
Well, I'm kind of a bit of a nerd. I guess you can call me a blurred. So I like a little bit of everything that's geeky. So I love anime, K-dramas, cartoons, all of that kind of stuff. I started reading by reading comic books, my brother's comics. So, and I've gone to Dragon Con and the Ren Fest and seeing people in costumes. I'm like, oh, that'd be pretty cool to do that. So my first cosplay, which is costume playing, playing a particular character or just a generic thing, character that you create yourself. So I started by going to my first Renaissance festival and seeing all of the tavern wenches running around. And I'm like, oh, you sell that stuff here? Oh, that's great. Let me go and see what I look like in a corset and a dress. And I'm like, oh, the girls are sitting up nice and high. So I kind of like that. So let's buy some more corsets. And that kind of started the corset collection too. And then, being old enough to go to Dragon Con and start going to that. And then it's like a wall of people in costume. I'm like, oh, this is very cool. So I've got to do that. So I've never gone full force into cosplaying. I'm more of one of those introverts who like to just kind of sit back and watch everybody and then kind of think of stories of their whole costume journey and stuff. So I've just done, like pirates. I've done some steampunk stuff. I dressed as Isis one time for a convention. So it's just been kind of, and of course, fairy get up. So that's been kind of what I've done. So not a particular character yet, though I want to. I've got a couple ideas that I'd like to be able to do for the next Dragon Con here in Atlanta.
You mentioned Steven Universe in the book, so like I feel like the obvious one would be Amethyst.
Yes, yeah, good point. I should do her. That'd be easy. I don't even have
That'd
to
be you'd be a fun Amethyst.
right. I can just pull stuff out of my closet and just find a blonde wig and there we go, or a light lilac. But or this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could do Amethyst. You're right.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, because I love Steven Universe, so that's why I put that little.
Yeah,
There's some
we love that
author
one too.
infusion there.
I was like, oh yay. I was like, I love that cartoon as well. And so do you watch reality TV? Like, do you like those competition shows?
No, because that's a lot of stress. I try not to stress myself because the world is stressful enough. So there's so much the pressure and the deadline. See, I don't even like those games where you have to compete against each other, like going to Dave and Buster's and playing those kind of games, because I get stressed the heck out, and it's just too much. So trying to watch people get in this deadline and they're stressed, and so when they're stressed and trying to do stuff, even though that it's kind of drama that's drummed up by the producers, but
Yeah.
it's still seeing their race to make a deadline. It would just get my stomach and knots, so I just can't do it. So yeah, I try to watch ones that are not competitions. I actually got sucked into the 90 Day Fiance one time because you're scrolling through a cable, there's nothing on. Why are these people yelling?
Oh, I love 90 Day Fiance.
So yeah, so all last year I just kind of, especially when they did a marathon and then 90 days the other way. So yeah, there was like 15, 20 shows on in a row, so it just kind of stayed on while I was
and they bleed into all the other spin-offs. There's so many like sections of this show.
Yes.
And it's like if you got into like the other way, then you get Jenny and Samit in like 8 years of will they get married or not.
Right.
But I really do like competition shows. And it's like you suddenly think you're an expert in anything when you watch it. Like I know nothing about whatever this competition show is about, but suddenly you're watching the Great British Bake Off and you're like, oh, that's a terrible tart. Like even though I've never baked anything outside of a mix, but all of a sudden you think you're Paul Hollywood. So I thought that like the Make It Work name is a Project Runway reference.
Oh, I did. Okay, if it is, then it's totally coincidental because I have.
So I guess it's a coincidence because I thought it was a reference to, if you ever saw Project Runway, that competition show, the original host, well, he was like the mentor of sorts. He was known for saying "make it work" to all of the contestants.
Okay.
To, a point in the competition, he'd be like, "Okay, whatever you're doing, make it work."
Oh, the one with the glasses and the kind of blondie gray. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's entirely accidental, but I like that. I'm going to use it from now. It's going to tell people, yes, it's a diet.
Yeah, I thought it was intentional. I was like, oh, this is like, a reference to other reality shows.
I should do that in like if the next book has some kind of reality thing. No, the next book won't. But if I come back to that with some other kind of competition that I dream up, maybe I'll just keep putting in references to other reality show competitions. That'd be great.
So if you haven't watched a lot of reality shows, so the kind of Simon Cowell judge, kind of like the Downer judge, was that like inspired by like the Simon Cowell kind of format of this like Downer judge?
Yeah, because it seems like regardless, there's at least one judge that is just the sourpuss of the bunch. And I don't know if that's because, the producers tell them to be that way for drama's sake, or if that's just their personality. Because, people say that Simon Cowell is kind of nice when he's not on the show, but yeah, you could fool me with that. I'll believe it if you tell me. And, what's the chef? The one that yells at everybody?
Oh, Gordon Ramsay.
Ramsay, yeah. Supposedly he's nice when he's not on
He's
camera.
Nice to the little kids. If you ever watch the show that he does with the children, he's very sweet to the children.
See, yeah. And I'm glad that he is, because they're stressed enough. I've seen the commercials where, some of them are just stressed crying, and I'm like, oh, poor baby. I'm sorry.
Yeah. As a mom, I'm so stressed watching that one. Yeah.
Yeah, them putting up their, making some of the creations that they make, I'm just like, I would not have thought to do that and put that together. And this little kid is like out cooking my entire family. So
I wasn't even allowed to use a stove at that age, so I don't know how those kids learned to cook that.
right? It's unbelievable. They're using sharp knives and all this stuff. And I'm just like, it takes me too long. I just can't do it. So
So like it's
my
interesting that like you don't enjoy like the tense aspect of competition shows when that's how the book starts. The book starts with like such a tense moment and like immediate like fat phobic microaggressions from this
right,
I'm like immediately on edge about her. I was like, oh, I don't like that lady at all.
right. And she just gets nastier. Yeah, so I see the highlight reels of stuff, and the ones that I like to watch are like the baking competitions on the Food Channel. Those, like the Great Cupcake War or something like that. Those are less stressful, so I can
The
watch
stakes are
those.
low. There's cupcakes.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, I've seen the highlight reels and stuff, and then people kind of give me recaps of the ones that they love to watch. So, and the advertisements for them come on, and I do remember, yeah, I watched American Idol like a lot of people when that first came out, and some of the other ones like that. So, it seems that like there's always a formula. There's one mean judge, and there's one sweet judge, and then there's the person in between or the two people in between. So, yeah. So I just kind of leaned on those archetypes, kind of, and I think that a mean judge, especially one that's kind of fat phobic and was going to be the best kind to be a foil for Kenya's character and her character development. So yeah, so I just took some dramatic license, and she's not modeled on any particular person. Just kind of bits and pieces from all of the mean judges in all of the reality show competitions. So
I find like even in like early American Idol, I think there was a lot of microaggressions towards like people of color and people of size in a, well, you're not conventionally good looking enough to win this competition. Like
right.
not what someone expects to see on stage. Like there, I feel like there's seems to be less of it now, or at least it's less blatant. It's probably producers doing it now. But I think early on it was like fairly obvious like what they were trying to say.
Absolutely. Yes.
Really not cool, not a vibe.
Right. It's like our audiences, we're looking for teenage girls, and you don't kind of bring that audience to the table, that kind of stuff.
It's all very like backhanded and very
like we like your voice. It's just the package that your voice is coming out of. So yeah. And then of course they try to give them the makeovers, and then,
Tyra Banks owes money to women from America's Next Top Model because she shaved their heads, gave them $40 and sent them away. Like,
right? Oh my gosh. See, that's awful.
The makeovers on that show should be illegal. They were really crazy. But I really loved Kenya from the beginning of the book. I loved this character. I thought she was so relatable and just really sweet. You root for Kenya from the beginning, and not just in the show, like just as a person. Did you
good.
Did you put a lot, do you see a lot of yourself in Kenya? Like, did you write?
I would say that she's the most me out of all the characters that I've written. So because this and the next book and all of these, I'm just kind of exploring some of the geeky stuff that I love to do and that I'm interested in. So all of the characters, as long as Berkeley keeps buying my books, will display like, some kind of geekery. Yeah, right. So yeah, I would say that some of the stuff that she's dealt with, it's kind of been, some of the, and I didn't realize my phone was still on. Sorry about that. At least it's not a dog. So, yeah, some of the stuff that, we've lived through from 2020 and 2021, it's kind of ripped from the headlines, anxiety over those kind of things, and just existing, in our state of the state of the country. So a lot of that was, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the book over here because I've got a copy of it over here too. So I'm looking at Kenya as I'm talking. So yeah, so she just is kind of some of my frustrations and anxieties and stuff like that, but still, again, it's her, because while I will sometimes just kind of slink into my corner and just anxiety, she is a definitely a stronger person than I am in some ways. So I would say that yes, in some of the things that she has faced, I have definitely faced some of those things, but how she reacts to them is much better than I would do. I would probably react better after the fact, you know, after that person's gone away. It's not in my face. But now that I'm over a certain age, I really don't care anymore. My field of you know what's is barren. So yes, I don't, yeah, I am out of cares. So
You're like,
yeah,
we're
so
done. You're like, we don't have any more of those.
like,
You're like, you're like, yeah, those were, we really doled those out in 2020. It's just,
yes. So I mean, yeah, because there was a lot of, you know, in the early days of cosplaying, especially Black people cosplaying, you know, you don't look like that character. That character is not Black, so you can't play them. You're too fat. You can't play that character either. And it's just like, you know that these characters are fictional
yeah, you know, they're
in a
not
created
real.
world. And if they would be anything, they'd be Japanese. So you shouldn't be playing them either. So it's just like, come on, we're just doing this because we love it and we love these particular characters. So, you know, lighten up and let us play. It's all about playing. So that a lot of that has gone away. They've just been kind of, you know, extincted, you know, they're growing extinct because there's just people who just love it for loving it. And it's becoming more and more acceptable to not be exactly like the anime or exactly like the book or exactly like the movie. It's okay to do your own take on them. I mean, you know, there's cardboard stormtroopers for goodness sake. So, and I just love that. And I just think it's great that people are putting their own spin on characters and just showing their creativity. So that allows for different people of different sizes and different aspects to be themselves and play the characters that they love. And I think that's awesome.
Because it's so wild that people will get so up in arms about a complete, like, fantastical world, and you're gonna get mad that like a fat person wants to wear this outfit. Like, who
Right?
like that's where your suspension of disbelief ends. The Black people couldn't exist, and you're like, but there are dragons. You're telling me the dragons are more believable than Black people? Like,
Right? Exactly.
just, it's really wild where some people take it. And so like, it was, I love that she was a woman of size and a woman of color that was in the cosplay world, because they have definitely had a hard time in the past
Yes.
being able to break into those kind of worlds, and still do. You know, you still
Mhm.
see criticism and struggle with people trying to break in that don't fit the mold of thin and white, which is like still the standard in so many people's minds, which is a shame. Have you done any costume fabrication, like in any of your costuming or dressing up? Have you sewn or made anything? Or where
I,
did you like get the ideas of how they would go about making this stuff?
I am a sorcerer. I buy my parts and put them together. I cannot sew something recognizable to save my life. I could probably hem up a pair of pants. They would be crooked, but I could do that. That's about the limit to my abilities in that. But yeah, I can put pieces together. I can buy a part from here, outfit from there, a wig from there, and just kind of put it all together. So I can come up with the ideas, and I will happily pay somebody else to execute it for me. So yeah, it's so much more easier to. And I'm in some groups who that do cosplay commissions, and they tell you, tell me the costume you want and I'll tell you how much it'll cost me and how soon you will get it. So that's kind of giving me a general ballpark on how some of these things are done. And then of course, YouTube has been a great resource. There's a lot of costumers out there and are talking about their process, and I get to see how they put stuff together. And just imagining trying to build an Iron Man armor suit out of that felt, out of EVA foam, is just amazing. It's like how you take this pliable piece of foam and then suddenly it's a gauntlet. It's just amazing to me. So seeing a bunch of going down a rabbit hole there and looking at all of the costumes that people have built and their process and how many weeks it actually takes to do that. I have mad respect for It's just
So then you
great.
kind of watch it and you're all like, wow, that makes sense. I would not do that.
Right. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to try to make build full armor out of EVA foam. Nope. Kudos to you.
I have worked on an Iron Man armor. This is years ago, and it was actually out of fiberglass. This was like
Wow.
9-ish years ago, maybe. I worked at a professional costume shop for almost 5 years.
Oh, cool.
Did a lot of mascot fabrication. So when it came to foam,
Oh.
what we did a lot of school mascots. We did the Spurs Coyote, like we did like, and so that kind of stuff. But we did big Halloween makes too. And so obviously,
wow.
Avengers came out, we had to make an Iron Man because that's what everybody wanted to be. And we had a really brilliant artist who worked there that did like the fabrication of like the actual armor. And then some of us had to paint it and help configure how to put the lights in there. And she actually got the helmet to move. She put the mechanism in there so that the thing could come off of the face. And it was really interesting. So I really enjoyed reading about those parts because I did that for a few years, but I actually worked upstairs in rentals mostly. So I was dressing the Renaissance people. I was dressing the people for Ren fairs and Comic Cons, lots of Star Wars, lots of Lord of the Rings, lots of stuff like that. I'd never even seen Star Wars at that point, but I could tell you everyone's lightsaber color. like I might not know what you do in this movie, but I know what you're wearing.
I like that. That's cool.
Like, so that was really fun for me to read about. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, this is a job that people have. People really do like actually make these things, and that's a pretty cool thing. I have someone in the chat here. She's talking about how she loved Kenya and she really felt mixed feelings about her parents. And I agree. You really go on a journey with her parents.
You do, and that was very deliberate on my part. Everybody has heard of those parents that want the best for their kid, but the best is their version of what they think the best is. And they're pretty strict on their kids because of that and want them to go on a straight and narrow path. Maybe some of that spilled over from K-dramas and Tiger Moms and stuff like that. But those successful people who want their children to also be successful and will drive them to do things that they may not want to do, practice piano, even though they don't want to play the piano, or take ballet and they don't want to, they'd rather play rugby instead of ballet, but the parents are making them do it because maybe it's part of their dream unfulfilled, but also because they're thinking that they know the best because they've been on the earth longer. And so it took a lot for her to stand up to them. And, she's been dealing with that for her entire life because, that whole, she thinks she's born different from the rest of the family because she's more creative and they're more technical. So she's had to endure that kind of environment for a long time. So that also has helped her be strong in the face of these other people, because it's basically like, you guys can't hurt me with your criticisms the way my mom and dad can hurt me with, them not understanding me doing what I want to do. So she's had to stand up to them. And luckily she's had Cam for, half her life, kind of being helping her, deal with that, and they help each other out. And I just really wanted that to be just a great arc for her, and proving to her parents that that she can be successful, and that despite what their sometimes lack of belief in her, or them trying to, them having pride for her for making it, because they did watch the show.
Yeah.
All
so
the
they
time.
seem conflicted too. They seem like,
Right.
we're proud of her, but this wasn't our vision. Like, this wasn't what we thought we were getting.
Right. So but once she decided, and and once they convinced them that this is what we're going to do, you can take it or leave it, they're kind of, they accept it. I mean, of course it's like a whiplash kind of thing where they just seem to accept very fast, but they were probably expecting that, especially after that conversation that they had with Kenya after the scene in the shop with his ex-girlfriend. They probably were expecting that if she didn't quit at that point, then she's probably going to just keep on going, even though she lost. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Um, so, regardless of what the outcome was, I think that they knew that she was going to um, still be in it to win it, regardless of what winning was or what winning looks like. So I think that they just kind of resigned themselves to it and accepted it. And especially when, they had that final talk, they kind of accepted that this is who our daughter is, and we just gotta love her and let her do what she wants to do.
Like they didn't really know what they were getting with Cam either, because they kind of seemed like they paired Cam with her in a way that they were like, you're going to help her stay where we want her to stay. It's kind of like
yeah, it was kind of like, well, because her being fat and black in their high school, she could be the target of bullying and stuff like that. So since once they became friends, they kind of and he started hanging around the house, they were kind of like, if you could help her out, just kind of watch out for her and make sure that
they're
some
like,
of that negativity doesn't.
This handsome white kid seems like he can really keep people from picking on her, which makes sense.
Right.
It's almost like inadvertently, like by parents, like not shipping them in a way, but by like encouraging their friendship and like their affection for each other, they helped encourage her into this way, because Cam was just so relentlessly behind her the entire time. Whereas you see a lot of doubts with Kenya, not in her affection for Cam, but in herself. Like Cam's like adoration and complete belief from her from the very beginning is really sweet, is really lovely.
Thank you, because I was really trying to go for sweet without going, gag worthy sweet. So I just really wanted it to just be this sweet story of these friends wanting more, but not really vocalizing them more, and then get on their journey to more and getting there happily ever after together. So, and just have them realize that, oh, maybe we should take this up a level, and and then convincing themselves that this will be okay, that they're not going to ruin their friendship over it, or at least on Kenya's behalf, because Cam was all in it.
He was all in it. He was waking up with his hands in between her boobies from the get-go.
Right. So
I'm not even sure how you get your hands in there in your sleep. I think he did that on purpose. I've slept next to people with boobs before. My hands have stayed safely in between them.
Right. Well, I kind of also wanted it to hint at Kenya in her sleep, just kind of grabbed his hand and like was holding his hand, and then suddenly it ended up, because she's not little chested, so it just kind of ended up that way in the course of her grabbing his hand and holding on to it and sleeping. But
they travel in the night, if you don't have a bra on, like I'll bet.
Right. Yes. You can painfully wake up just because you elbowed yourself, you elbowed your nipple got caught on something. So sorry for being TMI.
I mean, this is a happy endings book club, so I feel like people have like the notion that it's not like the conversation for your toddler is like, don't stream this on the TV during dinner or anything like that.
Right.
As well, we keep things pretty polite. It's like, we all read the steamy scenes.
Right.
I guess some people might skip it, but that seems like a weird way to read romance.
So yes, I've definitely awakened myself by accidentally pinching my nipple with my arm. So yeah, sorry about that. Again, TMI, but it's okay. So yeah, stuff like that can happen. And like you said, if she's not wearing a shelf bra or something, some kind of tank with a bra, then yes, they're going to move.
Well, move independently. You go to sleep with the tank top, and then like you wake up and it's like shifted.
Yes.
And just everyone's out.
Absolutely. So, and sometimes even though they put pillows between them, sometimes the pillows move too. And if they're restless sleepers, pillows get jettisoned to the floor, and you wake up with body parts pressed against you that you weren't expecting.
And you think that like with a shared bed romance that things are going to happen fairly quickly physically, but this was a pretty slow burn.
Yeah, because it's just, Cam being respectful because, Kenya's got a lot on her plate and he didn't want to add to it. And, him still having, some doubts because she firmly put him in the friend zone and he's been kind of wandering in the friend zone for a while. And, he's finally got the opportunity, but he didn't want to freak her out. So he just wanted to go as carefully as he could with his 4-point plan to win her over.
He really came in from the get-go. He's like, this is my shot. He's like, he saw her say it on TV and he's like, now is the time. I've been waiting
Yes.
since I was 13.
So like that, I really like that about him. I just really loved how supportive he was, but I felt like I couldn't make him too perfect because he was on his way to that because he's such a cinnamon roll hero, and I really like that. That was my first time doing a complete cinnamon roll guy. I mean, he
he's
even
such a
eats
sweetie.
one. Yeah, he even eats a cinnamon roll at one point. Because I just wanted to hit you over the head when he's a cinnamon roll hero. So yeah, but so the things with why he and Kenya became friends and why he loves her parents, and so his backstory with his mother, losing his mother in his early teens, and his father basically checking out because he was heartbroken over losing his wife and basically becoming a functional alcoholic. And so Kenya and Kenya's family was basically his escape. So for him, of course he's going to love them as this adoptive family in a way, but then realizing it all comes back to Kenya because she was the first one to acknowledge him and be friends with him and basically adopt him like she would adopt a kitty, but then just just them watching their friendship develop and then grow, and then especially when she was there for him when his father actually died. I mean, that was it for him. When she drove from South Carolina to be with him and stayed on the phone with him that entire time. Yeah, he knew then and there, as soon as she walked in the door and he was able to breathe again, that was it for him. At 19, he knew for sure. I mean, he'd known all the way through that no matter what, they were going to be, at least ride or die. But when he was 19, he knew that she was going to be his forever person. And I just really like that about him. And I like that scene. So that was, I think that was fun. I mean, it was very emotional, but it was fun to write. So
somebody asked in the chat what a cinnamon roll hero is. Do you want to clarify what a cinnamon roll hero is?
Sure. You have the alpha male, you have the beta male, you have the bastard hero. So you have the ones that are good, but they're good by being bad or by being overbearing or things like that. With the cinnamon roll hero, they're just a good guy. Where they say the good guys never get the girl. Well, these good guys get the girl, and they get the girl by letting the girl be herself and being supportive and having her back. And not being afraid to defend her and throw some blows if they got to, but most of the time they don't have to because they let her handle her things herself, especially if she wants to. But if she wants some backup, then they're definitely there to give the backup. So they're just sweet guys. Trying to think of some examples. Trying to think of some TV examples, but we cut our cord, so I'm looking at everything on Roku. So I'm trying to think of some that aren't in movie dramas. If you ever watch Zoe's playlist, Extraordinary Playlist, I would think that the guy in that, I forgot his name, and I just saw the Christmas thing a couple of weeks ago.
I can't
so
remember
that guy,
the show, but it was Skylar Astin. He was cute. Yeah.
So he's an example of one.
Because not everyone likes a bad boy. Sometimes,
right.
In real life, you usually don't.
Don't have the patience for them. So, my husband is a reformed bad boy, so he got it out of his system before I met him. So thank goodness. But he will drop kick somebody if he has to, but luckily he does not have to, especially since I'm antisocial and I like to stay home. But if we were doing some of the concerts that we used to go to, and things cropped up, then he was going to handle stuff. And I like that about him. But I also like that he does not have to do that anymore. So
yeah. So with Cam being like so incredibly devoted and obviously attracted and wanting to be with Kenya from the get-go. And Kenya obviously being attracted to and dedicated to Cam. And so you think in the beginning, you're like, why aren't they dating already? You're like, why isn't this a thing already? Like, what's happening? And like, it feels like Kenya's super doubtful. Like, she's super doubtful that this can be a thing for her. Like, why do you think she doubted so much that this was a possibility, that they could be more than friends?
I think for the longest while, she really just thought of him as the dearest friend, almost like a brother, because he
Yeah.
kind of pseudo got adopted. So just kind of as a protective measure, she wanted to make sure that their friendship stayed and remained solid and was good, and didn't have she didn't want to lose that friendship no matter what. So I think for her, it was safer for her to just continually think of him as a friend. And that way they could still be close, they could still have each other's backs and still be there for each other, even with their significant others complaining because they were so close. But still, just kind of, it was safer for her to be in denial about where their relationship could go if she would just let it. So that way she wouldn't have to, the chance of ruining the friendship, the fear of ruining the friendship was greater than the hope of being something more with him. So that was kind of her thing. And then, the first time that he made a play, it was right after she had broken up with somebody. So that's like, no,
she's like, not the time, dude. Like,
really, 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 really sucky timing. I'm still cussing out this guy. I still have feels. So yeah, and of course, after that, he hadn't tried again until the competition started up. And so it wasn't until he started treating her as a potential love interest, or basically treating her as a love interest, that she was like, well, okay, maybe we can still be friends, but we have this extra thing going on, and it's not too bad. I actually kind of like this. And it's like, oh my God, the noogies, we should have done this a long time ago. So yeah, so I like that, how he convinced her in slow bits and kisses and hugs and touches and, and everything, that it was worth it to take the chance. So
and then
and
you feel
become
so
something
bad
more.
for him because he's taken all this planning and he's really trying to like get them to a place where like, we're really more than friends. This isn't just for the show, we're doing it. And then the scene in the shop happens and it feels like everything just kind of like fell apart for a minute. And well, initially before like the big scene with the ex-girlfriend, when there's the two women who come in and who's basically in there to be like, oh, we saw this hot man on TV and we're going to pretend we want to pay for these very expensive costumes. And, the side eye and shock that they're actually a couple, I feel like led Kenya to start feeling really doubtful, as if this was in her head, or if this was real. Like, it felt like she started to be like, oh, like, who am I kidding? Like, no, this isn't real. This is for the show. Like, it started to feel like it started to backtrack for her in her mind.
Right. So yeah, so there was that too, because it's like, their friends can believe that they are more, but outside people not thinking that it's possible that Cam would be interested in Kenya that way, or vice versa. So seeing people treat it like it couldn't happen, just kind of, made her doubtful too, and made her, kind of want to take a step back, until the scene at the game night, when they had their talk and finally moved into serious territory. So you can see, and then so I think that she can, she has her highs and lows when it comes to believing in herself and doubting herself. So, and I wanted that to be, a real thing, but have it not necessarily be because of her size, but that is kind of like an adjacent thing. So it's not that's not the way that she's thinking of it. It's not because she thinks her weight is a factor. It's just kind of, Cam is such this good person that she wants him to be with the best person for him. So she wants the best person. And if that's, and maybe she thinks that's her, and maybe she doesn't think that her, or, so that's why her thing was kind of give him money for the shop and then help him find Mrs. Wright. And he's like, well, I already got her, but apparently she's clueless. So I'm going to have to convince her that, it's you. It's always been you.
And so then there's the scene in the shop where the ex-girlfriend comes and is out her mind. Like,
Yes.
that was really sad to read. It's like, that was really hard.
Right. Because I didn't want it, I didn't
Like,
want her to just be the evil ex-girlfriend, because,
yeah,
that's so much. So I wanted it to be, she really had these feelings, and she really, and she had to get liquid courage up to have this face off, because she really did think, or the liquor made her believe, the alcohol made her believe that Kenya was really, and she had her friends backing her up, and probably
yeah,
there was
probably hyping her up, like, yeah,
right, getting her hyped and telling her things, and there probably was an assistant producer also feeding her stuff, because drama.
yeah.
But yeah, so it really was, I mean, Jessa was sad in a way, but the way that Kenya had to stoically, basically kind of just take it, but because if she escalated it, it would be problems for her more than it would be problems for anybody else.
No,
So
that's what I found way more sad. I was not sad for Homegirl.
yeah.
Oh, I would have
Right.
cops on her, but I'm also not a Black woman. And so that was a really sad thing for Kenya to have to grapple with, is that, like, this is awful. And she has nowhere to go.
Right.
She's supposed to, like, leave her work and leave this place. And, like, but if she calls the cops on her, this can, like, endanger her work, endanger her career, like, God forbid, endanger her physically,
Right.
or legally. And that the woman who came to harass her would just be, pat on the head and told it's okay, like, we're going to keep you safe. Like, and that's what made me really sad in that scene. And
Yeah.
on top of her being so, taken down by her.
Right. And that actually is kind of based on a couple of incidents of people that I know and love who had that happen to them, being confronted, and then the cops coming and soothing that person while looking at them like, I'm going to put you in the back of my police car. So yeah, it was really tough to write that, but I was able to draw on some real world experience. Sorry with that. And you're right, it's very sad to
But
have
I think
to
it's a really
experience
important
that.
perspective. I think it's a really important perspective to put into there, that these were the thoughts that she had to have
Yeah.
when deciding what to do. And thankfully, Cam showed up at the right time that she could remove
Right.
herself from the situation. But I thought it was really important to add that perspective to that moment.
Because I really wanted it to be, present day reality without, clubbing people over the head with the
Yeah.
present day reality. So I just wanted Kenya to be as realistic as possible. I just wanted both of them to be, Kenya and Cam, to be real. So I wanted their experiences to be real and their reactions to be as real as possible. So that was what I was trying to get across in that, with that scene, that, sometimes these kind of things can happen, and how you can react to them, by going low, but by going high, but being ready to go low if you have to,
Yeah.
hoping that you don't have to.
And I think that's kind of the moment where, like, you also realize that her parents aren't all bad. As much as you go on a journey with her parents, that's who she goes to. At the end of the day, like, her parents do still have a lot of love for her.
Absolutely. Yes, they're not going to let anything, I mean, because, in their own way, they're being protective of her. So they know, she's gotten her computer engineering degree, so they know that she could do that. And they feel like, even though there's not a lot of women in tech, it's still, they feel like that's a safer thing for her than trying to do this business where the chance of success is much lower than going into her degree field. So yeah, so it's, in their way, they were trying to protect her, and maybe even with Cam, they're trying to protect him too, because they want the best for both of them. And if that means that in their mind they'd be better apart, and maybe they should try to be apart for a while and try to exist without each other, just because to them they seem, Kenya and Cam seem to be codependent. So even though they put them together,
yeah,
so it's
you're like, you
really
did
messed
this.
up. Right? This is your fault, really.
Yeah, don't call us codependent. You're the one that shoved us together 10 years ago. Like, what are they supposed to do?
Exactly. So so I just wanted it to be the parents' real concerns about the closeness of their relationship, even though they started it, and wanting the best for both of them, and thinking that maybe some time away from each other would help that. Even though technically they did have some time away. I mean, they dated other people. College, they weren't necessarily seeing each other that much, even though were they roommates then? No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember when I actually, it's off page. What's the timeline?
Your canon timeline in your head that you're like, where were they? Who was she dating at that point?
Right.
Like these
Right. And so them, trying not to be jealous of each other, that they've got these significant others, and not bringing them home because, home is them.
yeah.
And, so they don't want to bring, their current girlfriends and boyfriends up into the house and mess that up, but that kind of thing. So so there were glimmerings there, even when they weren't realizing it, especially when Kenya was completely clueless, because she just wanted somebody good for Cam, and and didn't necessarily consider that to be her.
Why do you think she didn't see that in herself? Why do you think she didn't see herself as good enough for Cam?
Well, just because I think a lot of it is the doubts that she had, and the doubting from her parents kind of spilled over. And I just think that because she wanted the best for Cam, the best no matter what it was, I think that she didn't think that her, with all of her angst and anxieties and doubts, would be the best for him. And then of course, once her parents dropped that whole codependent thing on her, she was like, well, heck yeah, I've just been kind of dragging him down. So definitely.
And she felt so guilty. It was so sad.
Yeah. So and that hurt me writing it. I'm like, this is pissing me off. And I'm like, I'm the one writing it. Yeah, her parents made me mad too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I really should dial this back. And that actually is kind of dialed back, believe it or not. My editor was like, they can't be this evil in the notes. I'm like, okay,
no, these parents are really shady. Like, I cannot be that bad.
Right. It's just like, okay, you're right. They can't be this bad. So I'll have them coming from a good spot in their heart, and they're doing the whole tough love thing. So once they kind of did it like that, and not just because they really just hate her being all creative and cosplaying, because everybody else in the family is technical and they just can't understand the strange bird that they gave birth to, So instead of it being like that, the wanting the best for her, and challenging her to be the best in their view, by going by their rules. So having to live with that, and being the strange bird, the odd bird out in the family. So she just kind of had those kind of doubts were just kind of built in for her by that point. So even though they did practice kisses on each other, their first kisses were with each other, but it just still didn't dawn on them. They're practicing because they wanted, other people, their crushes in high school, whatever, because they, still didn't even think of each other as more than friends even then. So, and it's just like, oh, I'm kind of like kissing my brother, but not. So let me just think of it. It's not a relative. It's my friend, and I'm kissing him just to kind of practice being able to kiss Bobby, or something like that. So so that's kind of, so they even had each other's backs in ways that
they didn't realize. They're like,
right.
I do want to talk about the end. So spoiler alert for guys that are here. She loses the show.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that a tough decision for you to make?
Yeah, because
or did you think that from the beginning? Or did you think from the beginning, when you started writing it, did you know she wasn't going to win the show?
Probably about halfway through, I knew she wasn't going to win the show. Because I think when I did the synopsis, well, no, because I really needed that big dark moment. So I think even though the big dark moment was in the shop, confronting Jessa and then having to deal with her parents after that, and then deal with Cam after that. So that kind of was her dark moment. But I needed there to be a almost breakup scene for them, but
Yeah.
not a breakup scene because that's been done. I just wanted them to be able to talk it through. And so I wanted her to have that dark night of the soul kind of moment, and her thinking that she's about to lose everything, and have to give in to her parents' demand. That was a really dark part for her. So she figures that, she's got to let everything go. And that moment of losing and still having to pretend that everything is okay because, she's still got to, go home with Cam, and she's still got to, pretend to be okay with everything. So that was hard for her. And I wanted to show that part for her, but I also wanted to have that so that Kim could prove to her that her choices and the things that she's done and the things that she wants to do are worth it and are worth the effort, and that she's worth it too. So I wanted
He
them to
needed
have
that big moment. Like he needed
yeah,
this big moment because poor boy's been sweating the whole book trying to show her that he's like, no, I believe in you. Like I do like want you to keep doing this. And so
right.
yeah, I can see where he needed a big moment. But do you think she should have won? Would you have voted for her? Would you have voted for Ben? I think he didn't make that dragon.
Yeah, yeah. In my point of view, the way that I imagined that costume, it's like his costume was nice, but again, she felt like that they put their effort into the dragon, but the dragon wasn't worth the effort that they put in.
Yeah.
And they use all of their theater get-ups to make his Daenerys costume. But yeah, so she doesn't think that he made the and I don't think that he actually made the percentage mark that he was supposed to.
Yeah. I think some things were fudged on their work chart.
Yeah, really do. And fans had to vote in that round too. So there was a lot of, probably some other, well, I'd rather vote for these people than vote for Kenya and Cam, even though they did a kick-ass, thing. So iconic duos, maybe they didn't think that Iron Man and Thanos were an iconic duo, even though I kind of do in my mind. So, but I wanted them to have a better win, I guess if you could say, because who knows what direction it could have gone in for them if they had won, if she had won that
Yeah.
working on a big major blockbuster. That means she would not be home. She'd probably be in LA something. So would their relationship survive that? So I wanted them to have a win that actually more fits them. So being able to work on their favorite show that's in their town.
Yeah.
Because we have a Pinewood Studios here. Part of the Avengers movies were filmed here and were filmed at those studios. So having a Dogwood Studios and having a producer that is close to a producer that does TV shows here. I just wanted that to be kind of their win, their customized win. So they still won, and I think it was the best win for them that could keep them together and have you assured that they would continue working together and continue being partners in all aspects and continue being successful. So yeah.
Like she didn't technically win, but she won like
Yes.
long term.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm glad that that's like clear at the end, that it's like I wasn't even like really mad that she lost because I was like, she's gonna win though.
Absolutely, yes.
And so what are you working on next?
The next is another geek girl adventure. It's the working title right now is Game On. So it's a female gamer, and she's calling out this gaming company because for their representation of women. And the owner of the game company is feeling some kind of way about that. And so then some mayhem and foolishness ensues, and for some reason they end up working together.
Yeah.
To solve this problem. And so that starts them down this path, and there's all kinds of hurdles that they have to jump through. but I like the way it's going. I actually I'm being cagey on the details because nothing's locked in. I actually am finishing it up. I have to turn it in at the end of February. Hopefully I will be able to do that with no problem, because a lot of stuff has been going on. Yeah, it was hard to finish up the Love Con because 2020 just kicked ass.
But did you write it during the pandemic? Did you write it during the pandemic? It's been really interesting listening to how writers.
Yeah, so I was already I had been out on a medical leave right before we did the whole shut down the office, everybody's working from home thing. So I had basically been home since January of 2020. So, but I also had on the news a lot because information, and I had information overload. I actually had to not watch the news for like months in order to get myself back to where I could
don't watch a lot of the news.
Yeah, and I don't now either, and which is another thing. Glad that we cut the cable and I just have my Roku, because I can watch so many other things, and Netflix and so many other things other than the news, because some of that stuff gets spun depending on which newscast you watch. And so so trying to write this in the middle of all of the George Floyd and Armand Aubrey and all of those kind of things that were going on, it was just kind of tough to try to write this happy-go-lucky thing when the world is a shitstorm. So but luckily romance and love stories can always bring us back to our happy spots. So once I was able to get back into the story, it was good. I had my good flow going, and my editor understood where I was going, and she helped me clean it up. And you really kind of need to explain this more. And obviously in the first cut, it was obvious that I did not watch reality shows, because I had the rules and everything up in my head, but she's like, why are they doing this? What's this going on? And is this dollar amount prize money really realistic? And so I'm like, oh, I should probably look at some reality shows and how their competitions go. And
like that's what RuPaul gives, so it must be right.
So I had to beef that up. And then once I beefed it up and actually explained what was in my head, it's like, oh, yeah, see, now this makes sense. So what they have to do and why they have to do it, and why she ends up having Cam be working with her on this, now it makes perfect sense. So so there were points like that. But it's gotten better, which means that this book has flowed much better. And I'm really happy with the way it's going. I probably am overwriting it, but again, that's what my editor's for.
That's what your editor's for. That's your editor's job. They'll tell you.
Find the story out of the blah that I spit out. So
yeah, that's why they're good at their job.
Exactly. Poor thing. I made her work for it. She worked for her chaos coordinator coffee mug. Yes. Yes, she did.
It's been really nice hearing how many people, especially during the pandemic, turned to romance. So many people started reading it for the very first time in their lives, or picked it up after, decades of not reading it, because they're like, I need to know that this is going to be okay.
Exactly.
Escape into a story where I am guaranteed that the ending will be pleasant.
Right.
And I think we need a lot of that right now. I think that's why romance has been having such a huge moment the past 2 years.
I think so.
Like, I need a happy ending.
Yes, because no matter what, hell or high water, they are going to get their happy ending. And it's going to be hard won sometimes, but I just think that makes a better story. So
yeah, sometimes I'll get stressed out in the middle of reading a romance, and then I remind myself, this was a romance. It's going to be okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us so much. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Kenya and Cam, and I hope they're living their best lives right now, wherever they are in your headcanon. I look forward to reading your next one. And thank you for chatting with us. Everyone that joined us tonight, thank you for joining us. And take care.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.